Well, here I am in the studio where I've been for the last dozen days, and maybe a bit more as well, working on the new prog instrumental album called The Red Planet. It's been going fantastically, and I'd love to be able to play you some stuff, but I can't because I don't know how any of this works, and Eric's gone home. But it's going extraordinarily well. Some drums on already, and very good they are too. And there's some bass on already. Oh, very good it is too. No guitars on it yet, but there will be space for him. That's the dear old lovely Dave Colquhoun. It's going fantastically well, and I can't thank all those who've supported me and wanted this album for a long time for giving me the encouragement really to do it. And I'm so glad you did, because I'm enjoying this. Is fantastic fun, and it's going extraordinarily well. And as I say, Dave Colquhoun guitar playing brilliantly, Lee Pomeroy on bass playing brilliantly, Ash Sohn on drums playing brilliantly, and Eric Jordan, who's engineering, says that I'm not doing too bad either. Years ago, a playback would mean you, the band, maybe the management, somebody from the record company, sitting in a room with a cup of tea or a glass of scotch and listening to the album. Not anymore. Nowadays, playbacks are for everybody. They're for the people who have helped create the music, which is in essence all of you, because without you, couldn't do any of this. So on the 4th of April at the National Space Centre in Leicester, we're having a very special playback. It will be an outrageous day. We've got space food, which means you get a plate with a lot of space on it and not much to eat. A big Q&A. All of the band will be there, although I believe that Dave Colquhoun can't make it because he's washing his hair. But Ash will be there and Lee Pomeroy will be there, answering questions, having a bite to eat, looking around the Space Centre, and having the first playback of The Red Planet. Hope you can make it. Well, all the playing on The Red Planet has been done. I'm happy with absolutely every single element of it. It's now being mixed by Eric Jordan, assisted a bit by Toby Wood, who's come down as an extra pair of ears. They've nearly finished, maybe 5 or 6 days still to go. They're thrilled with it. I can't wait to hear the finished article. And if there's any little things I want to change, I've got a chance to change them before it is delivered to be mastered. I am absolutely so excited about this, and so are the rest of the lads. I'm getting hustled by Lee, Dave and Ash to, when are we going to hear it? I say, you have to wait. If I have to wait, you'll have to wait, which means that you'll have to wait.
Hi, this is Dave Colquhoun. Welcome to the Red Planet documentary. So I got involved with the ERE in 2002. I knew Lee Pomeroy because we'd had a band called Moondigger, and he phoned me up. He said, "What you doing next week? You know, do you fancy doing a gig with Rick?" I went, "Great, yeah. Where is it?" Jakarta, he said. So I had to look up Jakarta. Didn't realise it wasn't local. And I think there was about 9 days to learn all the material. I said, "You know, what's the stuff like? I don't know any of the stuff." He said, "Well, it's all right. It's easy. It's not like Yes." You know? So I went around his house the next day. First song he played me was Never Is a Long, Long Time. Now, if you don't know Never Is a Long Time, the riff goes like this. Right. So I knew it wasn't going to be so straightforward. I nearly missed the flight going out there. I just met the guys and went to park the car and somehow got held up. And I remember running down to the gate. It was gate 87, but I'd run to 78 or something, and the flight had gone. There was tumbleweeds going down there. So I didn't actually meet Rick until I got to the airport in Indonesia, and he said, "Well, thanks for doing it, but you must be mad." We got a day's rehearsal before I'd never met anyone except Lee, so it was quite a lot to take in. I'd scribbled down all these notes and stuff. So started the first song and the wind machine went on and all the paper flew all over the stage. But I managed to get through it. It probably wasn't a great show, but I made it to the end and the show happened. That's the main thing. It's very much influenced my playing. I think on a technical level, with things like harmonic minor scales and odd time, playing in unusual keys, E flat, G flat, you wouldn't get that, playing with other guitarists doing the 12-bar format. But I think more than anything, as a musician, his experience of playing with him, he's got a benchmark that I'm trying to aspire to, I suppose. When he just switches on this absolute professionalism and he goes into this zone and the eyes close, and it could be a Moog solo, it could be an intricate solo piano part, and he's taken being a musician and transmitting music to an audience to a level that it's not just a technical expertise, but it's an emotional transfer of energy, and he's got that. And so that's his biggest influence on me, is just getting into that ultimate place of absolute immersement in the music. So the Red Planet, I'd love to go out and play the Red Planet music live. We all did our bits in isolation. It would be really great to work at taking the music to a performance level and getting the dynamic between the musicians, the interaction, that kind of thing, and seeing how the music intersperses with classic Wakeman material. So lovely to play it alongside Catherine Parr and then play this stuff, and then it'll all kind of should gel and sound have a continuity to it. So that would be great if we're ever allowed out the house, that is, because I'm filming this during the lockdown. In 2015 we did the Starmus Festival, Dr. Brian May's Starmus in Tenerife. And I went running the day before. It's nothing new. I've been running a lot, done the London Marathon, etc. But I managed to stumble over and I just thought I'd sprained my ankle. It turns out I'd actually broken it. I wasn't getting a lot of sympathy. I think certain people were even kicking my ankle before they realised. Dr. Brian was very sympathetic and empathetic, as he always is. Anyway, so I got back to the UK, and then after the x-ray realised it was broken, which is a bit of a disaster because we were scheduled to play a load of shows in South America. We had journey shows and we were going to Argentina and Brazil, etc., etc. So I had to do that all in an air boot and being wheeled around. And then I think this was the kind of amusement for the guys on the tour, was where can we wheel Cooney and put him, let's make him a traffic island, let's put him by the bins, let's leave him here and there. And then the one time at the airport, they left me, you've got the big row of like luggage trolleys. So they pushed me into the middle of it and then pushed a load of them behind. You've got to laugh in these times of adversity. Ankles all mended now, no harm done. So for the track Arsiamons, I use this. This is an E-bow, and it gives you a sustain. It's got a battery and a magnet in it, and it keeps the string ringing on like. I've been playing about with some plugins. This is actually a noise gate, and this is what happened. So also on this track, I put an acoustic guitar on there, and I remember I'd done a take the night before, and then it was just rolling around my head all night. I was up here at 4:30 in the morning. I woke up real early, and I just thought, I've got to go and redo that guitar, and that was the solo that you hear on the recording. These are the pedals I was using. Boss Super Overdrive, a delay pedal and a compressor, and that's pretty much it through a Fender Champ on the whole album. Didn't use anything else. I've got all of this stuff here and loads of other amps, but I plugged it in, the first track, away it went, and I didn't bother changing it. In fact, I didn't even move the mics or anything. I just was very happy with the way it was all sounding.
Hello, Lee Pomeroy of the English Rock Ensemble here, and welcome to the Red Planet documentary. Well, I'm glad you've asked me that question. That's a good question. Some of them are improvised and some of them are written out for us. It depends on the track. Some of them are sort of based around a riff or a series of riffs. But for the most part, I think Rick likes us to put our own stamp on things. So there's a lot of improvisation, and we can play around with the track and try things out and send him ideas, and he can give them the thumbs up and or the thumbs down or whatever he sort of feels. But it gives us a lot of space to come up with our own ideas, which is a fantastic way to work. It makes us feel more involved in the album, etc. And we can put our own sort of ideas in and come up with little ideas for sections as well. So that's always really interesting. There was one track in particular called Valles Marineris, which had an unusual rhythm. It had a 3-bar riff. It was a snare drum part over the time signatures of 5, 5/4, 6/4 and 7/4. So bar 5, bar 6, bar 7. So I wanted to come up with a riff that went along with that rhythm, but had its own flavour, playing underneath the chords that Rick was playing. It's quite dramatic chords. So I've got the track here, and I'll play you what Rick sent as a rhythm part, and then you can hear what I played on the bass over the top of it. So here's the rhythm. And here comes the bass. So I sent that to Rick and he absolutely loved the riff, so the riff stayed in. And you know, now I've got to come to remember it if we go and play it live, which is going to be a bit tricky, because I'm going to have to go back and work it out again, because I can't quite remember it. But I think it was something like this. This is the bass I played it on. This is my trusty Yamaha fretless bass that I paid about 200 quid for on eBay a few years ago. And I think this is how the riff goes, if memory serves. And that's how it goes, kind of. It's better on the record. I practiced it a bit more.
Well, as you can see, I'm here in lockdown, isolating in my home, but left outside the gate for me to pick up, with hands washed, I hasten to add, is the album. And it's fantastic, I love it. And this is truly going to be the first time that I've actually opened it to look at the inside. Now that is super cool. I remember when I was a kid having pop-up books, and then I can remember when I was a teenager I had a pop-up book that my dad confiscated. But this is absolutely brilliant. Oh, this is so cool. This is how albums used to be and should be for the future. Nice one to all concerned with the Red Planet. Thank you very much indeed. Look what I've got. They finally arrived. The Red Planet exists. Well, we know it's always existed, but it now exists in my hands. I've waited years for this. Well, months. Well, a couple of weeks actually. So if you've ordered one of these will be winging their way to you very shortly. Well, actually not one of these. It'll be ones that are signed that I've done that they'll be on their way to you. Thrilled to bits with this. I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are. When you first get a wonderful CD or an LP as it used to be in your hands after recording it, it's something very special. And I can go back to, crikey, 1970, Antiques and Curios with Straubs, actually holding a copy of the album in my hands. I just thought it was the greatest thing ever. And I still have the same thrill when I hold this in my hands. And I don't have the same thrill trying to get the condom cellophane off, because that is an absolute nightmare. But never mind, it's there for a purpose. No idea what the purpose is, but apparently it's there from a purpose. Hopefully, if you've ordered a copy and you get it, you'll enjoy it and have as much fun listening to it as I had making it. Yeah! Hello, I've just got the vinyl and it looks fantastic. So pleased with everything. Loads of copies arrived. I can't remember exactly how many. It was either 80,000, 18,000, 8,000 or 1,000. I think it was 1,000. And I've just spent the last 3 days, well, day and a half, well, the last 6 hours anyway, signing them all. So it's actually a good job that it wasn't 80,000, because I wouldn't be finished till Christmas, if we have Christmas this year, of course, because of the lockdown, but hopefully we will. So here we are. I'm very proud to say, here is the vinyl version of Rick Wakeman and the Martian Rock Ensemble. It says English, but they're all actually Martians. And they're all signed and they're all ready to go off. What can I say?
What's the vinyl look like, Rick?
What's the vinyl look like?
Yeah, it sure is a vinyl,
and
Rick.
inside, here's a bit of a giveaway, because Mars is known as the Red Planet. In a moment of tremendous inspiration and individuality and uniqueness, we've got red vinyl. That was really clever. Would anybody have thought of that? The Red Planet, to have red vinyl? I think that's pretty cool. I like that.
The marketing team have done wonders.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a a marketing dream, he cried, to have a red vinyl. I'm just glad it wasn't a walk in the Black Forest, but there we go. Hold on. And there's also there's so many things. There's a booklet as well, and the booklet is fantastic. I know because I wrote it.
Show us the booklet, Rick.
Show you the booklet. It's in here somewhere, and it's called Spot the Odd Error, because there is the odd error, but there's look, there's the band. There's my manager. That's Dave Colquhoun, who supplied his own picture, which is only about 15 years old. There's Lee Pomeroy just after they let him out, and that's Ash Sohn, who never puts his sticks down. So they're all there. And oh look, that's me. That's Mars, the surface. Interesting, really, when you consider 2 million years ago it had water and rivers and everything like we did. And there's all the little different places and on Mars. It's very educational. And there's a picture of a lot of people and a lot of the original, because there's over 55 missions been to Mars with lots of different things landing there, and a few that got all the way there and never managed to land properly. On the last tour I did with ARW, we had a flight case stolen, which we have discovered it is actually on the moon's surface. I believe the Sunday Sport are going to put that on the front page of that. And then there's just some great pictures here, great pictures of some of the experiments and things that went on with the different rovers that went up there. I bet they're a bit more reliable than my car. And there's a bit more about the Martian landscape, which is fantastic. It really is. I mean, when you consider, as I say, 2 million years ago, it was very similar to this planet, except not as much oxygen and things. So I find it fascinating. So, do I believe in little green men came down to Earth 2 million years ago from Mars? Of course I don't. They weren't green. And now, the Red Planet trick. Here is an empty Wakeman's Music Emporium bag, just to show you all that it is indeed empty.
Ah!
What?
It's an empty bag.
So it is absolutely empty. And I shall just put it there so everybody can see it empty on the table.
That's completely empty.
And now, courtesy of Tommy Cooper, I'll take the big album. And here it is, the big gatefold album. It looks like that. No, more like that. And that's it, it looks like. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it get incredibly small. I'm going to put it in the empty Wakeman's Music Emporium bag. And then I'm going to go ahead and go, aha, ha, ha, yeah, aha, ha. And it comes out all miniature. Look at that, isn't that clever? It comes out all
wow, that's amazing.
and that is so good. That is such a clever trick. And I can put it back in and I can make it become big again.
No!
Yeah, that's really. And I've just dropped the little one. I mean the bag that didn't have the little one in it that could have the little one. You could do this trick at home. It's very easy. All you need is a Wakeman's Music Emporium bag, the Gatefold album, and the Gatefold CD, and you too can do that trick and amaze your friends, just like I've amazed you. What a load of rubbish. The 28th of August is D-Day, or RP Day, Red Planet Day. Dave Deaford. It's the day when officially the album is launched, The Red Planet, but it does seem that there are quite a few thousand copies out there already, which is thrilling for me. And I can only thank everybody who sent such wonderful reviews or such wonderful comments about the album. It really makes it all worthwhile. Thank you very much. And as you can see, I am here now on the Red Planet itself, looking around to see if there are any shops here selling it. As yet I haven't found any, but I will continue to look. Welcome to my second tragic magic trick. Due to the immense success of the first one, where I was inundated with 2 requests to do another one, this is more of an illusion. Illusions are much harder to do. You have to work much harder to work them out. And I will admit that this one does involve a little bit of camera trickery. What's important though, which any great illusionist will tell you, the likes of David Berglas, the late Paul Daniels, the wonderful Daniel Dean, all these people will tell you that the most important thing when you're using camera trickery is continuity. The continuity to run through is all important because obviously it helps the edits and helps to tell whoever's watching that it's for real. So here we go with the Tragic Magic Trick 2 illusion, and it involves the magic box. This is the magic box, which is empty, as you can see. Here I have 2 Wakeman Music Emporium bags, and these 2 bags, as you can see, are empty. I am now going to put them in the empty magic box. So as you can see, the empty bags have gone into the magic box. So what happens now, you might ask? This is where the clever illusion comes into being, because I close the box. Sorry. So here we have the empty Tragic Magic box with nothing in it except for 2 empty Wakeman's Music Emporium bags. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say the magic words, please buy the Red Planet album, and then I open it up, and amazingly, what do I find? I find, look, a Red Planet pop-up CD. I find, which I should just put there on the ground, I find the Wakeman's Music Emporium bag now has in it the vinyl pop-up of the Red Planet. What else have we got? We've got a t-shirt which is Grumpy Old Rock Star. Look at that. Fantastic. And what else have we got? We've got a tote bag with Daniel and Donald. So isn't that clever? Now, I shall put them all back there for safety, because now I've made them actually appear, they can stay in there. And one of the things that's important, anybody want a Daniel O'Donnell bag?
No.
I've run out of toilet paper, so I'll keep it anyway. If you would like to do the same trick as I've just done, all you need is a box like this. And all you need then is for the album, or the CD, and the t-shirts. And then all you have to do to get those to appear is go to the Wakeman's Music Emporium site, where you can get them to use with your box. I do hope you've enjoyed the trick. To put this all together took a lot of very hard work to make it real, so nobody would spot the joins or how we actually did it. So I hope you've been impressed by the Tragic Magic Trick illusion, because I can assure you we have.
Rick,
What?
continuity girl's gone home.
Right. Well, I think we were okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine. No one knows.
And now for yet another tragic magic trick. This one involves my hand, nothing as you can see either side, nothing down my fingernails, nothing even behind my watch. And a handkerchief, which I admit should be a bit cleaner, but I've had a bit of a cold. Anyway, this could only be done here on the Red Planet. Hand, hanky, nothing in it. Hanky over hand, nothing there. Pull up hanky and there he is, a little Martian. How clever is that? Obviously not very. Are you going now, or are you just going to stay there? Yeah. High five. Oh, well, that was horrible. I'm here in front of my wonderful big old C3 with my great friend Eric Jordan. And without Eric, there wouldn't be a Red Planet. In fact, without Eric, there wouldn't be a keyboard rig. And without Eric, I couldn't really do very much because, well, I'll let you answer this one, Eric. How would you say I am with technology as regards modern instruments?
Probably best to leave that to other people, I think.
Basically, I'm rubbish, aren't I?
You are, yeah.
Yeah. So I ask Eric all of the questions. I tell him the sounds and things I want, and you program them.
Make it happen.
You make them happen, and then you record them all.
I do indeed.
How actually you record in two different ways, don't you? Correct me if I'm wrong, don't we use Logic or something, and then it goes on to somebody's tool?
Indeed. Well, yeah, in the studio we use both Logic and Pro Tools.
Difference being?
Just generally speaking, if we're doing MIDI keyboards, tend to prefer Logic. If it's mainly audio based, we'll go over to Pro Tools.
But the one you can edit on is Logic, is that right?
Technically it's both of them, but that's a technical thing, right?
But single note wise, if I wanted to change a note that I didn't like.
Yeah, I mean, for this album, we basically ended up staying within the Logic world for most of it. We were using some virtual software synths as well, again, all wrapped up in the Logic environment. But Pro Tools did come out to play because some of the other band boys were working in Pro Tools.
That's right, the other band boys being Lee Pomeroy, The Oracle, Dave Cooney, and Ash Stone. I don't know if he's got a nickname actually, Ash. We'll have to give him one. And I basically just play. I let Eric do all of that because I don't understand it. And then the process was you got all the parts back in from all the guys, didn't you?
Yeah, so basically, we spent, how long did we spend? 3 weeks? 2 to 3 weeks. Rick laid the initial, like the basic keyboard parts down, formed the structure of every track.
Template is the word you're looking for, isn't it?
Template is the word.
Yeah.
So there was a plan.
That's my contribution.
There was a plan to start with. And then at that point, I took it away. We farmed it out to all the other boys who individually, they were all working on their own parts. And then sending it all back to me. It was
to slot in.
To slot in, and it was. I have to admit that period was quite a busy period. That was my so-called. I was having a break during that. Was our. I was having a break.
No, you were having a breakdown.
Indeed, I was, because in reality, it was like playing tennis. I was sending the tracks out to the others. and as soon as one person, you know, they'll be like, oh, Lee's just done a bass part on this track, brilliant, get that back now, send that off to Dave.
Yeah.
He's now doing guitars, and I mean, tracks are flying backwards and forwards.
How many tracks did we end up with altogether, do you reckon?
Well, in terms of pieces, 8 pieces. In terms of tracks of audio,
Yeah, I mean,
no idea.
tracks coming back from the guys and things.
Oh,
if you lined them all up.
Loads. Because, I mean, it was very
Loads,
much...
is that more than 20?
Yeah.
More than 30?
Wouldn't have fit in the old, on our old
more than
16 or
50?
24 tracks.
More than
Several of the tracks ended up with a few hundred tracks. By the end of
really?
it. Yeah.
Which is why it's going to be quite tough to play it live.
But it's, I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, it was quite an interesting way of working, because the pieces were evolving all the time. So, you know, they start off in one direction. Rick's got his bass track going, and it's the basic track, not bass, but
Template.
the template. He's obviously got a good idea of where he wants it to go. We're then farming it off to the others. And to be fair, I mean, all of us have worked with Rick now for quite a while, so we generally know what he's after. But of course, that's, you know, within interpretation. So then people are taking these tracks, coming up with loads of ideas, throwing all sorts of things at it, and we're never quite sure what will end up in the final track.
Yeah.
So I'm then catching all that, compiling it all, and after that process, it was back over to Rick's. We spent, what was it, a week or two, effectively going through each of the songs, having a good old listen to what everyone's done.
Which they did on the template.
On the template. Most of the time, Rick was like, I love it. A couple of times it'd be like, love it, but that's not where I wanted that song to go. So all of a sudden, you know, the tracks might do a bit of a 90-degree turn.
But equally, they came back with stuff that in a direction where I thought, oh, wasn't expecting
Exactly.
that.
I mean, there were some wonderful
Massive, yeah.
surprises. I mean, to be fair, it's always the slightly sad element of where, you know, there were some real masterpiece moments that end up effectively on the cutting room floor, because just at the way that the track ends up evolving, you can't end up keeping everything. But it is fascinating seeing the development as it goes along, and when you compare it to where things first started, to all the ideas that everyone's been putting in.
But they all understood what the music was all about. That was the great thing.
And
They
did
didn't just go,
something completely
or try this, or try this. It was all things that they threw in that would actually work on the template. It was, and then it was down to mixing time.
It was indeed.
And I don't come anywhere near you when you mix, do I?
No. At that point, I go scuttling back to my studio, and it was, let's go through each song one at a time. And, you know, we were, to be fair, slightly up against it time-wise.
Gave you a day.
It was pretty much a day of track to get it sorted.
I will hasten to add, that's because as we went along, one of the things that you do is you tidy up tracks and get them almost ready for that stage.
I mean, throughout the process, the tracks are always this is effectively almost the finished product, and then we continue work on them. It might go in different ways. So you're always fine-tuning as you're going along.
But I keep clear of the mixes, which I know with all your other clients, clientele, do they all turn up for your mixes? Or
Totally, it totally depends on the project. I mean, the way Rick likes to work when it comes to mixing, we're at that point where effectively we've got everything there. We've been through all the tracks. Rick's done all his last solos, and we'll play through the track, and he'll give me, you know, a good set of pointers as to the kind of things he likes. Certain tracks he'll be like, oh, the balance we're listening to at the moment, actually, you know, can we have a lot more of this
of me?
Or, generally speaking, can we have more keyboards?
bit more of me.
Yeah. You know, turn everyone else down. More keyboards.
More of me.
More of Rick.
Which I have to say, you are very, very good. You tend to ignore me and do what the track wants.
I do I consider that a balancing thing.
Yeah.
A balancing thing.
The reason that I don't go to mixes is because I have experienced mixes a lot, where I have been along, and you can become obsessed with one little thing. You can be obsessed with one instrument being too low, not quite fitting right, and that's all you end up listening to. So you don't listen to the overall thing as a whole. And the worst culprits for that were my mates in Yes. I mean, there was always 5 sets of hands on the faders, along with Eddie Offord and who else was there. I mean, you couldn't see the faders for hands. And basically everything just ended up getting pushed flat out, and then it was on, limiters came into play, and that was it then, which is a great shame. So one of the things I can't do is listen to the music for the first time. But if I stay away from the mixes and a few weeks later come to hear them when they're done, that's the closest I will ever get to hearing the music for the first time, where I can say, oh yeah, great, love that. And there's often a few little things to change. But I have to say, with the old Red Planet, there was nothing.
No, I mean, you
absolutely nothing. Loved it.
You know, the mixing was finished. Rick turns up effectively for a review of everything. Let's go through all the tracks.
Review, which you remember started as a template.
We're now at the review stage. Played the whole thing through, and I'm there. You know, I mean, from an engineer and a producer's point of view, that moment where the artist is hearing this album for the first time, the artist, the boss. It's a nervous moment, because you know, you've basically put your heart and soul into something for the last couple of months or so. Rick turns up, we listened through to the whole thing, and I'm there thinking, well, you know, do we need to change this? Do we need to change that? Nope. Rick turns around and goes, I love it.
I loved it.
I don't want any changes made.
One of the things that was great is that this particular album, more than probably any other album I've ever done, has some space. And you can hear all the instruments. If you want to pick out something, you can listen to it, you can hear it. And that's something that that Eric has drummed into me time and time again. And I think not for the first time, but this time in particular, it was really taken a note of, from the early days of when we did the template right through to the finished articles. And I love it, and I still do.
I think it's an absolutely stunning album, I have to say. The musicianship, I mean,
the check cleared then, did it?
It has cleared, yeah.
Has cleared, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a great project. And it was quite an interesting project working this way, you know, effectively remotely. It's got pros and cons to it. This was the decision was made to go down this route for this album. We went with it, and you know, there are certain things that become a bit tricky, you know, in terms of communication, trying to, you know, but I wasn't there, for instance, when the other band members recorded their own parts. Normally, by the time I get to a mixing stage, you've basically been there for every single note. You know everything. Here, you're almost playing detective work. You know, as people are sending you files.
Except, but the thing is, you know how Lee and Dave, in particular, play.
Well, this is it. This is what has been the joy on this project, is that you just know that every time you receive anything from anyone, I mean, everyone who's played on this album knows Rick's styles, knows which way the music should be going. You know, and I'm receiving these, and every time I was hearing each individual part. So it's not like the whole finished piece at this point, but it's just, this is this person's contribution, or this is that part that's coming in. And every time I'm just sitting there with a huge grin on my face, sending text messages back, getting on the phone to the guys, and you know, they're like, oh, you know, does this need changing? Does that need changing? I'm like, I think this is brilliant. You know, every time, every single thing that we got sent,
and Dave
nailed it.
Dave and Lee did get together on a few occasions. Around Dave's house, in Dave's studio. I think they got together on a few little bits to run through things that, you know, either where Lee said, you thought about playing this? Cooney and Cooney said, have you thought about playing this, Lee? And then they'd have a fight, and then they'd go back to their own places.
Yeah,
And get back working on the template.
So just to sort of wrap it up in terms of now that the album's out, we've had a bit of space from it all and everything like that. Where are you both now with the album in terms of?
Well, I have to say, from my part, I always find it. But by the time I get to the end of an album project, you really have invested so much of yourself. You're trying to present everyone the best you possibly can. You're trying to defend every player. It's a battle. Can you hear everything? Is it working as a piece of music? Is everyone going to be happy with how you are presenting them? How they're going to sound? There are always compromises throughout every project, and sometimes it can be quite hard being the person that has to sometimes be a little bit ruthless for the greater good, so to speak. And I for one, always feel really worried about how everyone involved will how they will perceive the album and the end result, and is it as good as they wanted it to be. So you throw everything you can into it. So by the time you get to the very end of it, you are so drained. It finally gets handed over for production, and then at that point, I normally have to go, right, I will not listen to this album for probably about best part of a year or so. I need to forget it. I need to move on, so that when I finally come back and listen, I'm now listening to this as a customer almost, to go, can I now enjoy this with totally fresh ears? And I did that today for the first time in, 6 months or so. I was driving over to see Rick in the studio today, and I played it all the way through, and I was laughing. Huge smile throughout the whole time.
Playing wasn't that?
It wasn't. No, it was. I just enjoyed the playback so much. Not having now had a bit of space to step back and enjoy it. I mean, I loved it. I went from track to track to track. Before I knew it, the album was over, and I was like, oh.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I must admit, it's sort of blowing all our own trumpets, because it's yourself, Lee, Ash and Cooney, and all been heavily involved, and I wouldn't change it. No, I really am so proud of the album, and it's interesting, you played it coming over to me today. As you know, I'm in the process of moving, and basically I can start the album as I leave the gates of the house that I'm in, and it's the final bit of Valles Marineris finishes as I go into the driveway of the new house. It's the only trouble I have sometimes is if there's a bit more traffic on the A14, a bit slow, then I have to really belt it for the last bit to make sure I finish it at the time it goes in. Now I'm very proud of the album, and I'm proud of everybody who took part, because everybody got it, and that's really, and that is so important. You can hear sometimes some great records with some great playing. Not all the musicians, they haven't all got it.
I mean, that was something. That time where once everyone else had finished their parts, went back, and at this point, in a way, Rick's doing all the main intricate work over the top of everything. The amount of times, every single day, on every single piece, he was just... Every sort of note you heard that the others had done, you were just turning around going, they understand that. Oh, they're a clever boy. Oh, I mean, it was just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's tuning in to the music and to the idiot that wrote it, that kind of thing. But no, immensely proud. It will be something... I'll be brutally honest, as regards prog rock albums go. I think I can't even think how I could possibly top it in the years to come.
So, gentlemen, you've taken us to the Red Planet. Where are you taking us next?
back to earth. Now the Red Planet next stage is live performances, which will be next year because of wonderful COVID that has stopped us. Although we could do complete concerts to big audiences if we were willing to go and play on Brighton Beach or Bournemouth Beach, which tends to have tens of thousands of people there. There seems to be a different rule for that, so we could set up stage and play it all down there, and that might work quite well. But no, it's preparing to do it live. September next year will be the first time that the whole suite, shall we say, all 8 pieces will be played live, and that's at the Starmus Festival, and we'll have quite a large band, because obviously it would take more than the 4 of us that recorded it to do it. So it'll be at least 8, if not 9 people to perform it live in Armenia in September for the Starmus Festival, and that will be really quite special. Why Armenia, you ask? Well, Armenia is the country where Garek Israelian, who is the wonderful guy who founded the Starmus Festival along with Brian May and Professor Stephen Hawking, and he's also the guy who proved black holes. He is Armenian. He lives in Tenerife, but he is Armenian, and he's wanted to take it to his home country, and I'm thrilled about that because I've never been. Have you ever been to Armenia?
I haven't, no.
You should soon will, next September,
I
mate.
look forward to it.
And so, yeah, hopefully it's got a bit of a life ahead of it. And where else we can perform it live, I'm going to be really brutal now, will depend on how the album does. The reviews, I have to say, have been, unbelievable. I've been so knocked out with all the reviews that have just been tremendous universally around the world. But you hope that they will translate into people wanting to get hold of the album, because that's what will decide as to where, when and how many concerts we'll actually be able to do. There are some prog rock festivals we're doing next year, about 5 I think in end of March, April, yeah. And also we're going to have it was meant to be a playback, but it's going to be a bit more than that now, at the end of March. Can't remember the actual date, he said.
27th.
27th, on the 27th at Leicester at the Space Centre, which will be a great time to have a playback and a Q&A. Hopefully the masks will be gone by then, because to try and have a Q&A... but it's also around about that time is when the current 3 missions that are on their way to Mars will actually arrive. So it's around that time in March, the press in particular and the media are going to be pretty Mars mad, because these are the missions that could actually turn out and prove that David Bowie was right and there was life on Mars.
I'm Simon Hayworth, and I got to master this fantastic record by Rick Wakeman, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we do in the mastering process, which is the analogy is probably the best way to describe it is that somebody makes a wonderful table but it doesn't quite look right, so we polish it and we make it sound absolutely great, and sort out any little anomalies in the mix and so on and so forth. So with this record, it's beautifully mixed and absolutely terrific sound, and what we're doing is we're just adding a bit more life to the thing to give it a slightly more dynamic, and to enhance it in such a way that what we call sounds like a record in the trade. And so a lot of this process, actually we take the music out of the digital world and we put it into the analog world. And by doing that, it tends to add a certain depth of field and a sort of a hi-fi sound to it, with a little bit of EQ and some valves and various very pure signal paths. We can bring out detail in the music that is there, but it's not that perhaps obvious. So it's the digital files sound great, but this is the bit that where we just give it that extra thing that makes it actually, you know, you can really hear what's in there. So I received the files, the audio files, from Eric Jordan, the mixing engineer, and the first thing we do is we sit down and we listen to the whole record all the way through, each track, and we don't do anything, we just sit and listen to it and make notes. And the main thing that struck myself and Bill was that this is a fantastic record. I mean, it's beautifully mixed, and the playing is exemplary. I mean, it's just terrific from everybody's point of view. Guitar work, the drums, particularly our rhythm section, is absolutely out of this world. There is, you know, there is an energy which is injected, which is very real, and it carries you like, you know, very few records do. It's very, perhaps people might think it's old-fashioned, but you know, it's real people playing, and they may not have all been playing together. You know, these days records are made in a very different way. They're not all necessarily in the same room, but it's certainly got the spirit of being in the same room. And you know, this is really important. It's this is what gives records their kind of magic, if you like. You know, this is really terrific. I mean, there's some marvelous sections, particularly in Thas's Thulis, and certainly Olympus Mons. I mean, there are some wonderful sections which are quite long, and the keyboard playing is just out of this world. I mean, it's, you know, this is Rick at his very best. You know, so when you're mastering something like this and you're listening to it, you're going, wow, you know, I better not mess this up. So, you know, it's a process where we just kind of let it, we put it through a signal path that basically makes things kind of leap out of the speakers. And it's very hard to describe what we do, because it's a lot of people don't know quite why, you know, mastering does something to make things better. It's nice to hear Rick on really good form, so I hope this record does really well, and it's been a real pleasure working on it. Thank you.